stand and fight here. We can't stay here alive. Then let us stay here dead.
Hello and welcome to Desert Dispatches Podcast 6, and I'm here with Richard Pinches,
aka the Lone Rat.
and I am the stand-up historian Crispin Thomas. Now, today we're going to be talking about June, July and August and a bit thereafter about what was going on in the desert. And it's the time that Benito starts to flex his muscles. So we're going to call this episode Mussolini.
That's hilarious.
No, it's not that funny though, is it? Really? Now, with us today is our new pet. As you would know from our last broadcast, and if you haven't caught up with episode 1 to 5, please do so on our YouTube channel, and you would see that we used to have our desert rat, the Jerboa. But today, we've got Freddy the Fox, haven't we, Richard?
We have a fennec fox, but you have another name for it.
Yes. In German, the fox, the desert fox, is known as the Wüstenfuchs, which is also what was the name for Erwin Rommel. Now, that may have been quite apt for some of the 8th Army, but certainly an interesting animal, don't you think?
Yeah, so the fennec fox is obviously he's a sly fox, which is why maybe Rommel got given the name of desert fox. Now, the ears here are quite special. They are quite big. They are great for hearing little scurrying animals that might be its food, but they're also good for cooling in the harsh, hot desert.
Richard, so what we're going to do before we dive deep into the desert is we're going to actually ask what was going on around the world at this time in 1940. Now, of course, we'd had the disaster at Dunkirk.
It wasn't going very well for the Brits at all in 1940.
Yeah, Admiral Ramsay had very heroically withdrawn the British Expeditionary Force from Dunkirk. 300,000 brave souls returned to the UK, mainly without their kit. But there was a feeling at the time that the British would return, and of course that leaps us forward to D-Day. We've also got the Battle of Britain, 1940, June 1940 till October, a disaster for our friend Hermann Goering.
Totally.
Yeah, so poor old Hermann, he was instructed by Adolf under Operation Sea Lion to take the Brits out so that the 50,000 Germans could cross the Channel and invade the southern coast. I just think from Hitler's point of view, he must have thought doing this against possibly the most powerful navy in the world in their very backyard must have been a bit of a mad plan. But he's well known for his mad plans, and the thought of 50,000 Germans being towed across the Channel in barges to invade the British coast was a little bit mad, don't you think, Richard?
Totally mad, but as you say, that's what he was known for.
Anyway, as we know, the failure of the Luftwaffe to conquer the RAF led to the fact that Britain then was able to stand alone and become a fortress being built up for D-Day. Anyway, that's another story. We've also got Malta too.
I was going to say, let's jump to the Mediterranean. Let's go nearer our operation, our geographic operation.
Are you getting a bit of desert withdrawal?
Let's just, Britain, it's so far away from the desert, let's face it.
I know.
Let's talk about the Med, let's talk about North Africa.
Okay, let's talk about Malta very quickly.
Malta's fantastic. We must talk about Malta.
Yes, we will do in another episode. But what's happening in Malta is our friend Benito is beginning to build up his attack on Malta through his air force, which are called
Regia Aeronautica. Now, funnily enough, when the bombers were coming to attack our little island, they weren't doing very well, were they? They were kind of like coming in too high, and just a little bit of our anti-aircraft gunnery would make them shy away and go back to Italy.
They didn't like
They were
it.
scaredy-eyes.
Yes, they were. And we're not trying to insult our Italian friends, are we, Richard? Okay.
Not at all, in any way, shape or form.
And lastly, let's quickly see what's happening in Europe, because of course it's under the jackboot. Practically all of Europe is under the jackboot, and it's just a story of occupation and subversion. There are various organisations like the French Resistance, SOE, MI6, etc., trying to do things in Europe, but it's mainly a story of occupation by the Germans.
Occupation and subjugation.
I like it.
So do I. But let's get to the desert. Look,
Okay,
I'm in desert
Richard.
outfit.
Okay.
Forget Europe.
So, at this time, getting back to the desert, Richard, I know you're keen, but I know that you're a little bit of an expert on Italian East Africa, which is not my favourite subject. I mean, I'm probably slightly bored by it, but the thing is, it's all about British Sudan, isn't it, and the Somaliland.
So in 1935, the Italians conquered part of East Africa. It became known as Italian East Africa. They had Eritrea, Ethiopia, and Italian Somaliland, but Mussolini wanted to land grab. So he was trying to invade the British territory in East Africa, and if they had have done so, they could have taken British Ethiopia, British Somaliland, and Kenya and Sudan, and you can imagine.
But didn't they want to connect Libya?
Well, the whole idea was
this
that
area.
If the Libyan campaign had been successful, then the East African campaign could have also beaten the British, travelled up the Nile Valley, and they would have connected beautifully. And if Mr. Hitler had been successful with his Operation Barbarossa, they all could have met in Jerusalem or Palestine, in the Middle East, and had a nice victory party.
A few moments later.
Are you awake now?
I am, sorry about that.
Because we're about to talk about something very important.
Go for it.
British Army in Cairo.
Yes.
Now, why were they there? So, we've discussed that Italians were successful in their East African campaign in 1935. But in 1936, the British Army negotiated a pact with the Cairo government, and there was an Anglo-Egyptian pact in 1936 that allowed them to keep a protectorate army force there to look after their financial interest in the Suez Canal.
Was this when it was known as the Mobile Force?
You are jumping ahead there slightly, but yes, so the Mobile Force was actually based at Mersa Matruh. This was a small force of 30,000 soldiers, Hussars, 7th Hussars, 11th Hussars, 1st and 7th Royal Tank Regiments, and the 4th Indian Div. They were based at Mersa Matruh, and they were known as the Mobile Force, but because their equipment was quite dated, they had these World War I Rolls-Royce armoured cars.
They had the turret on the top.
Turret that looked like a bit like a comedy armoured car. So they were nicknamed the Immobile Force. Enter the fray somebody that becomes quite famous later on. You know who this is?
Foghorn.
No, it's Cleghorn. It's Percy Cleghorn Hobart, nicknamed Hobo. He came in 1938 and he completely revolutionised the Mobile Force. And he was a modern tactician.
Did he call them the Immobile Force when he arrived?
No, it wasn't. It was already the Immobile Force before he arrived.
Immobile.
Immobile.
Ah.
The joke is that the Mobile Force was so rubbish that they were called the Immobile Force.
Right, okay.
But Hobo came on the scene.
Yep.
And he revolutionised their training. He did quite a miraculous thing. He put radios in the tanks. Can you believe that? Before Hobo came on the scene, there was no radio communication between tanks. How do they communicate? Flags, smoke signals maybe. Anyway, he revolutionised the Immobile Force to become the 7th Armoured Div. Unfortunately, he was rewarded by being sent home to be the equivalent of Corporal Jones in the Home Guard because he disgraced himself. I think you know the story.
No, he had a little romance with a married lady, didn't he?
Exactly. He had an affair with the married officer's wife. And he did actually marry the wife, but it wasn't the done thing, shall we say. And he got shipped back to Blighty, which was a huge mistake. But at least he'd done the groundwork for the 7th Armoured Div, which later became the famous...
I just want to say that the 7th Armoured Div sounds as if they have a lot of armour, but they weren't exactly bristling with tanks, were they? I think they had... was it...
A9 light cruisers. They had about 8
Yeah.
A9 light cruisers.
Yeah, and 6 Mark IVs.
6 Mark IV Vickers. These are really infantry support tanks. They were not... don't forget, at this point, there's no German panzers to fight. It's only the Italian, the possibility of engaging with the Italian tankettes, the L3, the L6, the M1340s. These are not really scary tanks yet.
Can we just return to the romantic Hobart? Because he does return to England. He does join Dad's army, but he has a very important role in 1944, doesn't he?
He does. I mean, thank heaven for his funnies. Yeah. I mean, we're not talking about D-Day here. He likes talking about D-Day. But the funnies, the bobbins, the flail tank, the crocodile, these were game changer. So thank the
whole
Lord
point is
for Hobo.
that he went back in disgrace for his philandering, but he then became a hero, didn't he?
He
Should
did.
we move on?
So you can
As
be
you're so
you can
keen.
be a shagger and still a hero.
Now, let's talk about Crea. What's his name?
It's Michael O'More Craig.
Craig, that's right. It's a
Major-
funny
Major
spelling.
General.
Why I sort of hesitated and went there is his name is spelled Creagh.
Yeah, Irish. He's
Is he?
Anglo-Irish.
He's Anglo-Irish.
He's one of those.
A lot of them
famous-
are Anglo-Irish.
He's one of those famous Anglo-Irish officers that did so well in the Second World War.
And his wife, right?
She went to the zoo.
She did, and she fell in love with a little rat called
Jerboa.
yes.
And she sketched the Jerboa. And allegedly, this is one of the origin stories, that it's her sketch that became the famous, iconic Desert Rat logo.
Yes, and I think it's not proven, but she was credited with that. But there is some doubt that happened.
Yeah.
But at this time, Craig, or whatever his name is, joins. And what divisions have we got over there now? We've got the Indians for a start. We've got the 4th Indian.
4th Indian Div.
Yep.
We've got the Hussars, the 7th, the 8th, the 11th Hussars. We've got 1st RTR. We've got 6th RTR. Or is it the 7th RTR? Edit that one in, Richard. 7th Royal Tank Regiment. So this is part of the 7th Armoured Div. But later on, we have our good friend, Dickie O'Connor. He comes on in charge of the Western Desert Force. This is before they're called the 8th Army. The Western Desert Force includes all the combatants in the field, and Craig is basically 7th Armoured Div.
Or is he 9th Armoured Div?
So I always think it's
Can
funny.
compromise on 8th Armoured Division.
No, he's 7th Armoured Div.
Okay, fine.
So I always think it's funny. Obviously, he's called 7th Armoured Div. But what happened to the 1st, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th? This is the British Army way of trying to convince the enemy they've got more people.
Loads of divisions.
Like we've got the 1st and the 6th, the 1st and the 6th airborne, but there's no 2nd, 3rd, and 4th and 5th.
It's cunning.
It's
isn't
all
it?
very.
It's
yeah,
very. It's funny.
it's
Anyway,
cunning disinformation.
Look, they're all sitting at Mercer Matru, right, thinking that there's going to be a battle.
Yeah.
You've got O'Connor. You've got Craig. They're all sitting there with their divisions,
Yeah.
right?
Don't forget, Italy is not in the war yet.
No. So, well, Italy does come in the war fairly shortly.
But why does Mussolini come into the war against his previous enemy and not the Allies, the British, which were previously his mates?
Yeah, they were. And
Why did he not like to join us?
why didn't he want to join us? Well, because he believed Mr. Hitler was doing the business. Economically, he felt Italy would benefit from the might of the German war machine. He'd also seen the fall of France so quickly, etc., etc. So he changed sides because the British had actually an alliance with Italy, didn't they?
Completely before the war, but you're forgetting the Mare Nostrum. He wanted to have his old Roman Empire back. He wanted to control the whole of the Mediterranean, which he would have called Mare Nostrum. I don't do Latin, but I think that means
My nostrils?
our sea or our ocean.
Our sea, yeah.
So that's why Mussolini changed
So
sides.
it's the new Roman Empire, basically.
Exactly.
This is what he was trying to do.
Now, Hitler wanted the Third Reich, but he wanted the new Roman Empire.
Okay, good. So
And just on that thought, Third
Yeah.
Reich,
Yeah.
every day's a learning day. I only realised the other day why it's called the Third Reich. So the Roman Empire was,
the First Reich.
and the second one was the Holy Roman Empire.
Really?
And so Germany's third empire,
You're hearing it here first, folks.
Third Reich, was meant to be the third epic empire to last for hundreds of years. I know he wanted it to be 1,000 years. Don't think he quite made that.
No. Okay, fair enough. So anyway, listen, should we go back to Mercer Matru?
I love Mercer Matru. I've been
Yeah.
there many times.
Yes, good. On with Western Desert Battlefield Tours. Just a quick plug for our sponsor here. Go to westerndesert.co.uk and join Richard Pinches in the desert.
Join me, Richard Pinches, on an unforgettable battlefield experience. Come and walk in the desert and see for yourself the tough terrain fought over all those years ago. From the rugged hills in Tunisia to the open desert plains, I can take you to the famous battle sites for you to experience firsthand. Walk in the footsteps of Alexander the Great. Dive into Cleopatra's pool and have an ice cold in Alexandria. Go to westerndesert.co.uk and send an email for more details.
So Richard, can we get back to Mercer Matruh, right? They all think there's going to be a battle. Dickie O'Connor's there, Craigie's there, right? And something is about to happen. So what is going to happen now?
So Mussolini obviously has chosen now to join his fascist friend.
Yeah.
But what he fails to do is warn his navy he's going to do that. So all the
What a mistake to make.
What a mistake to make. So all the Italian ships that are in Allied ports immediately get put in the bag with all the sailors. A quarter lost.
Big mistake, but the following day, the Hussars, right, cross the wire.
So the wire, so Mussolini had tried to protect his Italian protectorate of Libya with a huge wire defensive mechanism. It went 180 miles from the coast down into the desert. This is very simply just loads of rolls of concertinaed barbed wire, not so much built as maybe just unravelled. The problem with the wire was it could be cut or blown up. Also, there's this stuff called sand in the desert, and there's also sandstorms. So occasionally a sandstorm would actually move enough sand over the wire structure to enable cars to drive over it.
And was this the 11th Hussars?
On the 11th of June,
Oh, it was
the
the 11th of
Hussars.
June. Oh, it is the famous 11th.
It's the 11th of the on the 11th hour of the 11th of June.
No.
On the 11th of June.
Why I'm saying
11th
this,
Hussars.
but aren't these the same Hussars who rode into the Valley of Death?
This is the cherry pickers from Lord Cardigan's cherry pickers, also called cherry bums, by the way, of Charge of the Light Brigade fame.
There you
Or
are.
infamy.
Into
where
the
they
Valley of Death rode the 500. Why are they called cherry pickers?
600.
500, 600. Makes no difference.
What's 100 cavalrymen to... so the 11th Hussars on the 11th of June decided to do a little bit of a raiding thing, and they crossed the wire, and they managed to capture 30 Italian prisoners
Wow.
for intelligence
Yes.
and for prisoning stuff.
But actually, that 3 days later, they also then had the skirmish at Capuzzo, didn't they? There was a fort at Capuzzo,
Fort Capuzzo, yes.
just inside the border.
So they did a bigger raid. This is basically known as the Cherry Pickers War, the Battle of Gerba. This was a slightly bigger raid.
And they had light cruiser tanks and the famous Rolls-Royce armoured cars, didn't they?
Yep, and the Vickers Mark 6.
Yes, right. So, just as a side note, the Matilda tank, which was the more heroic tank, didn't arrive until after September. So, the if you like, as a force, we're still using fairly old technology here.
We are, but we're still a professional army, well trained.
Yeah.
Some of those poor Italians, not so well trained.
So, the Western Desert Force, just to conclude, the name of the Western Desert Force, because we didn't have the 8th Army or the Desert Rats arriving at that time, did we? On the 17th of June was still called the Western Desert Force, and it was O'Connor who was the head of the Western Desert Force, and he was reporting directly to Wavell.
General Wavell was commander-in-chief of the whole Mediterranean forces.
Yes.
So I think at that time it was called the Middle East Forces, MEF. If any of you got your ancestors' records, it'll be MEF on their service sheet. But yeah, Wavell was in charge of the whole shebang.
Yeah. Now,
Army, Navy and Army. Army,
Navy.
and Sea.
what about people in the air?
Yeah, Sea is Navy.
No,
isn't
it wasn't in the air, was he?
Wavell was in charge of Army, Sea and Air Force. Nearly
Yes.
forgot. And that, for some reason it wasn't called the RAF, it was called the Western Desert Air Force rather than the RAF in the desert.
But it became the Desert Air Force, didn't it?
Desert Air Force, yeah.
But the big excitement now, Richard, is the Italians counter-attack.
They do counterattack. Like the Germans, there's 3 things you can guarantee in life: income tax, death, and the German counterattack. But here it's the Italians. they counterattack.
And with a force of over 100,000 men...
150?
150,000 men, they forge into Egypt towards Sidi Barrani, where they decide to set up camp, don't they?
Yeah, they make a small incursion only 55 miles into Egypt itself, and they set up these big camps. So they have defensive positions, and they dig in with trenches. They build structures, and these structures extend down into the desert, down following east of the wire, as it were, that Mussolini set up.
But they had a trouble in trying to find a general who actually wanted to fight the British, hadn't they?
Yeah, I mean, because we said earlier, Italy was Britain's ally. The Italians might have been slightly frightened of the professional forces that were already in Egypt. So it was quite hard for generals to, find a general to take up the mantle. So the first general that was going to invade was General Balbo. He didn't have a very good end because he got shot down over Tobruk.
By his own side.
By friendly fire, yeah.
Yes.
So he was out of the question. So the first general that took up the mantle after that was known as Rodolfo Graziani. His nickname was...
The Butcher of Fezzan.
Fezzan is one of the southern provinces of Libya. And
are we going back to your Italian campaign in Libya and Abyssinia?
No, it's North Africa.
Oh, right, okay. I don't want to fall asleep again.
Fezzan is the southern part of Tripolitania. And here, the Italians were really cruel to the local Senussi tribes, which plays much in our favour later on because the Senussi really hated the Italians.
Well, and the victory over the Senussi tribes was celebrated by Mussolini, by him building a thing.
His huge erection called...
Yes.
The British troops called it the Marble Arch, but actually it was called the Arch of Fellini. This was on the border of Tripolitania and Cyrenaica. And it's a huge 30-metre erection, and it's named after these two brothers, called the Fellini brothers, who actually, to solve a border dispute between Carthage and Rome, they allowed themselves to be buried alive on that border. Pretty horrific.
Anyway, we have actually covered this in a past podcast, but it was destroyed by our friend Saddam Hussein, wasn't it?
No, it was destroyed by General Gandolfi. Gandalf the Grey. Colonel Gaddafi.
Colonel.
Yeah, so
That's
the Marble Arch was torn down by Colonel Gaddafi, but it was very useful. If you listen to an episode about LRDG, Marble Arch is critical to that.
Yes,
Plot
Road Watch.
spoiler.
Anyway, listen, the point is that most of the Italian troops weren't that motivated to fight the Brits, were they?
No, because they were previous allies, and also I think they were quite frightened of the professional force that was the Western Desert Force.
Yes, and it has to be said, this was the first time that the Italians had changed sides. They went from the British to the Axis, well, Germans, yes, and of course they were later to do so as well.
Yeah, September 43, they might have changed back again.
Yes. Yes. Anyway.
They're not fickle at all.
No.
Italians.
Anyway, back to the 13th of September. Take me through it.
So the Incas, they
do what?
So the Italians, they've made their defensible positions just inside Egypt, and obviously...
That's right. He with his 150,000 men...
So he advances to Sidi Barrani, which is just inside the Egyptian border.
Where amazingly they set up camp, don't they? They didn't go any further.
No.
They
So
just set up
They
camp.
make quite large defensible positions, and these extend down into Egypt, down parallel to the wire, as it were, the defensible position. But they're quite substantial. They've got proper structures in them. They've got medical tents in there. They've got all they need. This is full positions just inside Egypt, and obviously we don't want them to be there. So General Wavell commissions 7th Armored Div, Craig and Moore to do a little bit of a raid. They thought, we'll have like a 5-day raid. The Italian positions are so far apart, they're over 2 miles apart, they can easily be driven through. And the first raid, where the motor divisions, where the 7th Armored Div goes around, they turn back on the...
There is something interesting about the Italian construction, isn't it? That they only have one open back door.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Italian camps, they're quite big, but they've only got one rear entrance. So the British managed to pass through unnoticed between these two positions.
And they come up the rear entrance, do they?
They do knock on the back door of the Italians. And lots of these Italians, once they see the British at their back door,
Yes.
they put their hands up.
Yes.
So quite quickly, this little 5-day raid becomes a huge rout, and it becomes Operation Compass.
We are at Sidi Barrani at this time, aren't we?
We are, and here at the first part of Compass, 30,000 Italians give themselves up.
Yes. So have we actually moved on to Operation Compass? Yes.
Plot
Road Watch.
spoiler.
Anyway, listen, the point is that most of the Italian troops weren't that motivated to fight the Brits, were they?
No, because they were previous allies, and also I think they were quite frightened of the professional force that was the Western Desert Force.
Yes, okay. So we've got the invasion itself. The date is the 13th, right?
Yeah, 13th of September 1940, they actually start to invade, and they start to build these defensive positions. Again, expecting to have entrenched warfare like the First World War. Not necessarily what you want to do in the desert. The desert, as we described in the other episodes, it's a dynamic battlefield. You're not trying to gain land. The land's worthless. You're not gaining towns, bridges, or things. You're just basically trying to destroy your enemy.
Yes, and adopting the tactics from World War One, which is effectively what the Italians did, was not a good thing. Now, at the same time, by the way, the Italian Air Force, known as
Regia Aeronautica.
Yes, the Regia Aeronautica start bombing Malta, don't they? But they're not particularly good at bombing Malta, are they?
No, pilots might be a bit scared for some reason. So there's a little bit of anti-aircraft fire from Malta. The Italian bomber pilots turn around, basically. They're very ineffective. They are scaredy-itis.
Yes. So let's just sum up this particular section. At this point of time, the Italians are feeling quite good, aren't they? They've incurred into Egypt. They've set up, they've dug in, and then they've also started bombing Malta. So things for Mussolini might look quite good, but actually they get much worse. So, Richard, you own a copy of the Italian Book of War Heroes, don't you?
Shortest book in the world.
Does it take much space up on your shelves?
No, it's 1 millimetre.
So, let's just sum up. We've got Italians dug in Sidi Barrani. We've got Mersa Matruh as the English base. And we've got Wavell. Now, where's he based at this time?
Cairo.
He's in Cairo.
Grey Pillars.
Yep. And we've got...
Or Shepherd's Hotel when he wants to have a quick G&T.
Yes. We've got Craig and O'Connell.
Yeah.
They're lurking between Mersa Matruh, I guess, and Sidi Barrani.
They'll be based at Mersa Matruh. And if anybody didn't realise, Mersa Matruh is on the coastline. And just for those who maybe didn't realise, everything happens along the coast. The desert, basically, is a few oases, nothing there. So all these places we're talking about typically are on the coast.
And on the Italian side, we have Graziani, the butcher of Fezzan. But we also, a lot of people don't know this, but the Italians have a king, don't they?
They do have a king and a despotic leader.
Was he despotic? His name was Umberto de Savoia.
No, I'm talking about Mussolini being despotic.
Oh, God, what a mistake to make. So let's redo the Italian hierarchy then, Richard. So we have Graziani, the butcher of Fezzan.
Yeah.
We have the despotic leader, Tortellini. And then we have the king, Umberto de Savoia.
Yeah. You've also forgotten Bergonzoli.
Oh, no.
Because he's electric whiskers, because he's got this amazing tash.
Well, where's he at this present time, then?
Well, he actually, he will get captured, but that's a plot spoiler for the next episode.
So let's conclude this podcast, Richard. Okay, we've got the positions. We've said what the people are doing. So the positions are the Brits at Mersa Matruh. Yep. We've got the Italians dug in at Sidi Barrani. Okay, and we've got the British wrecking the position. And of course, this leads to the great excitement, which is our next podcast called
Operation Compass.
Dun, 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 dun. It's brilliant.
We should go on the stage together. Right, okay.
You could be a chair. We hope you will join us for the next podcast. If you want to like and subscribe to our channel, please click below. In the meantime, thank you so much for listening, and I hope you will continue to listen to the series that continues on and dive into the desert with Desert Dispatches.